Does the Federal Reserve have its tentacles in the mobile home housing market? Let's get into it. Why are investors buying up mobile home parks and evicting residents? Is it possible the Federal Reserve has its tentacles in this? Is the Federal Reserve helping corporate real estate investors evict poor people from mobile home parks? This is a segment. I've helped some people out with manufactured homes, been aware of this for years. Had a lot of people call us to invest in this segment. We haven't invested in it yet, but we've looked into it. So for millions, owning a home in a mobile home park is an affordable housing option. But some companies are buying up parks, raising the fees, and evicting people, and the government is helping them do it. So the bottom line from my research, the Federal Reserve is helping corporate real estate investors evict poor people from mobile home parks. Now, the story originated from NPR, of all publications. Actually, they broke the story on the growing number of mobile home park evictions, and according to the report, real estate investors continue to buy up mobile home parks across the United States. I'm all for that. I'm all for investors going in and doing what they have to do, but there needs to be a balance. So then they raise the lot fees and they evict residents who can't pay. So they're raising the lot fees, they're raising the rent. So as the report explains, the government makes the sham possible with easy financing through agencies such as Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. So here's how it works in a nutshell. A company raises rates and fees in a park that makes the park more valuable, so they can now borrow more money against it. Kind of like what you do with your house when you want to pull cash out and use it for investment. Very familiar with that. So let's say they pull out $4 million bucks, and then they use it to go buy another mobile home park. And then they do it again and again and again. So I have a few exchanges that I flipped 10 plus times. So it's a cascade of borrowed money. And often these loans are backed by the US government. So they provide very, very, low cost debt for these investors to get enough cash out to go buy additional parks. So the loans have super cheap interest rates, of course, because they're guaranteed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. And the government-backed entities at the heart of the U.S. mortgage, market. So government-backed, they got that safety net. So our NPR, they get some of the story spot on. In fact, it's impressive they, didn't just pin the blame on greedy capitalists. Nonetheless, the story completely misses, I think, the bigger player in the game, and from additional research, the Federal Reserve. So NPR asserts that the interest rates are low because the government backs the loans. That's certainly part of the overall equation, but it's the central bank that pushes interest rates to artificially low levels, and the Fed also makes it possible for these the quasi-governmental agencies to continue to buy loans through its quantitative easing program that I talked about last time. And I found this out from the research on the last video that I was doing. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac don't make the actual loans. Private banks do that. The banks then sell the mortgages on the secondary market. That's where Fannie and Freddie step in. So these government-backed enterprises buy mortgages, and then they kind of package them into mortgage-backed securities, MBSs. Remember collateralized debt obligations in the last crisis? So, the MBS represents an interest in the pool of mortgages, like bonds. An MBS makes coupon payments, just like, making your payment to investors. So by selling mortgages on the secondary market, banks also shed the risk inherent in lending money. So when Fannie and Freddie buy a mortgage, they also buy the risk of non-payment. So scrutinizing the risk in selling mortgage-backed securities dilute the risk further, with multiple mortgages, they're bundled. They're all bundled together, kind of like those CDOs, collateralized debt obligations, and they're bundled together in one security. One or two defaults won't have much impact on the MBS. But as we saw in the last crisis, 2007, 2008, when the entire housing market crashes, things snowball rather quickly. So enter the Federal Reserve. Come on in. Come on in. It buys these mortgage-backed securities from Fannie and Freddie, and also Ginnie Mae. This provides these operations with a cash infusion that enables them to buy even more mortgages, meaning banks can sell more mortgages to Fannie and Freddie and then turn around and lend more money. See how it works? So the Fed's intervening. The Fed's intervention into the mortgage markets, along with its interest rate cuts, keep mortgage rates far below their natural levels. In effect, it juices the mortgage market. So this is a big reason, we've seen home sales boom, in my opinion, and housing prices rise in the U.S. The economy emerges from, as we emerge from the pandemic, as governments shut down the economy in response to COVID-19, the Fed launched, as we all know, they launched when we shut down what we called QE infinity. That crisis mode monetary policy remains in place to this very day. And as part of this extraordinary monetary policy, the Fed buys, on average, $120 billion in U.S. Treasuries and mortgage-backed securities every month. Of that, central banks spend about $40 billion per month buying MBS. So the Fed creates the money out of the air to buy these securities. This entire operation would be impossible were it not for the central bank's ability, bottom line, to monetize the debt, print money to buy debt. In effect, Fannie and Freddie can buy all the mortgages it wants, knowing that the Fed will take some of them off their hands and infuse them with more cash. Must be nice. Must be nice to have an in like that. I wish I had that. So the process obliterates any semblance of restraint in the mortgage market for sure. So NPR stumbled into the truth when it identified Fannie and Freddie's role in facilitating the takeover of mobile home parks. So, they just reported the facts, but they didn't push the envelope, far enough when you see, who's behind the curtain, keeping this entire possible sham afloat. So the Federal Reserve, is helping out. And, this is yet another way the Fed distorts the economy, drives, all these resources and transfers wealth from the poor to the rich, and generally wreaks havoc, if we just look at the past. So maybe Fannie and Freddie should do more, like trying out a new program to help residents to buy their own parks. That'd be nice. Even a modest program for Fannie and Freddie could protect hundreds of thousands of affordable homes over a few years, and that would be better way for the government to support residents as much, as it's been helping out companies. So I'm all for investors, capitalism, and doing these things to let groups go in there, but you have to have a balance. So the downside is all these residents are displaced. They may fall into poverty levels and go into homelessness. And you just have to have a balance. If you're going to have a government program and Fannie and Freddie are going to get involved, and the federal government, the Federal Reserve is going to get involved, you're going to allow all these investor groups and cronies to go in and buy. You got to think the long term, and a lot of people get greedy and they don't. And then these people over here get displaced and they lose everything. I just think you got to have a balance. I'm all for investors. I'm an investor. I'm all for looking for opportunities, but I think we need to have a balance and, help these people out too and find affordable mobile homes, and then investor groups get us go after certain investment type opportunities throughout the country. I'm all for it, but this is out of control, and they're buying up blocks of these mobile home parks. I have an investor friend that does this. I started learning about it a couple of years ago. I wasn't passionate about it, but the bottom line is, he's like, it's all about the money. But I've learned more about it, and I've helped some people with manufactured homes and learn more about the segment. And I know some people that make a killing in it up north. For example, I met someone who's doing it. But it's interesting, never say never. But it's just something to consider, you know, the Fed, what we had happen in 2008, and this is kind of a different angle on what they're doing, and maybe they're digging in too deep, stepping in where they shouldn't be stepping. Because remember what happened last time when all this madness happened. Take care, be safe, be creative, be kind.